Now, the set and lighting of The Lion King has the responsibility of representing vast African landscapes, as well as evoking the time of day, the heat and atmosphere of the savannah, a range of emotions, and even a massive wildebeest stampede, all on this stage. Well, we went backstage and even under the stage to find out how all these things come together.
Start with the most unique thing about the Lion King set is that often it doesn't even appear to be there. There's this massive floor, or what we in the theater call a deck, and there's this huge back wall, this what we call a cyclorama. These are the most fundamental things you can put on a stage, but there's virtually nothing else. We have legs, we have borders, we have deck, and we have cyclorama. But then the beauty of what Richard Hudson created is it can almost magically transform.
When the set opens, it feels vast, and you feel like you're transported somewhere else. Almost every scene in this show has some spectacular look to it. Suddenly, you go from the expanse of the savannah into Scar's cave, and it feels claustrophobic. We're in the jungles where you have lots of lush greens and different colors, and you feel like you're in a jungle. Throughout the night, you're transported to all these different places through this set design.
So the audience is in the theater, and they know that it's fake, and they know that there are these wings and walls and everything, and so now you're going to start your play with a sunrise. So you go to this idea of the circle. It's right there at the top of the show. There is the circle. It's made by bamboo sticks with pieces of silk attached, and it's a pile of junk on the floor. And as Rafiki sings the opening number, and because it's silk and Don Holder's beautiful lighting backlights it, it glows and it vibrates. They can't touch it, but they know what it is. So they feel it. It's dimensional. It's sculpture on stage.
With the African setting of the movie providing such a challenge to the set designers, what elements were critical in making the story work in the theatre?
There are certain things in the movie that we knew, no matter how stylized the stage show would be, that we knew had to be there. Certainly Pride Rock.
So Pride Rock is obviously a very central scenic element. It's very beautiful to look at, effectively corkscrewing out of the stage. Of course, to achieve that, there is some very hardcore engineering for a very beautiful scenic effect.
The Elephant Graveyard. It's one of the most literal things in the show. When you look at the movie, you look at the Elephant Graveyard. But also think the simple star field. And all we have on stage are increasingly more stars. But the great kings of the past are in those stars. Certain things needed to be literally created in the scenic setup of the show.
And another one of those is the Stampede, a critical sequence in the story and one of the most memorable in the animated film.
I saw the Stampede, and that made me want to do it. I said, oh, great. How are we going to put a Stampede on stage? You know, that was the most exciting thing. The most difficult thing was the most exciting because that really taxes your brain and your artistry and how we going to, and so it brought me back to the old time theater with the barrels moving and the waves that come over. I knew that we could play with scale. So the Stampede was also one of the first sort of mise en scènes, the first scenes that I conceived of how we would do it, from little wildebeest painted. You would see another roll of miniature wildebeest, and then they would get a little bit bigger on the next roll, but they're still puppets. By the time you have the dancers, with 10 dancers, you can have 30 wildebeest. But you're using the heads, because the audience now doesn't need the body anymore. But then when we get to the close-up, which is a close-up in live theater, they're 6-foot masks, and they're like warrior shields. They're using their bodies to stamp it and push forward, and so the idea is that it is going from a long shot to a close-up, but is doing it in theater.
Once the set design is in place, how does lighting enhance the audience's experience of the show?
Light transports us in a way scenically that I think most people don't realize, because we forget how much story the light's telling you. The story of time, the story of place, but even color used to represent danger or safety. Think about the opening of Lion King. As a space goes from dark to light, we feel safe. And as the space goes from light to dark, we can be frightened. If we took you through the show and just ran the lighting cues, you would emotionally know what's happening in every scene.
With so many individual ideas and elements coming together, you might be surprised by how many people it takes to make the show happen each night.
There are up to 50 people in the cast and probably another 100 for all the different technical departments and the orchestra and our management staff.